This week on Streaming Star Wars with Emo and Fletzer, we talk about Episode 2 of Season 7 of The Clone Wars on Disney+.
What's with the nose art? That's our girl, the Naboo Senator. We check her out on the holoscans.
Streaming Star Wars Ammo and Fletzer episode 14 is underway on a Saturday morning. I'm Ammo, he's Fletzer, and we are with you to have a Star Wars conversation talking about The Bad Batch once again because it's the second episode of Season 7, the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Mr. Pete Fletzer, how are we on this Saturday afternoon?
I'm awesome, man. It's great talking to you on, well, it's still daylight. It's cool. I love it. How's it going?
We've never seen each other in the daylight. It's always been in the dark. You're surrounded by your black curtains.
Right.
And there's no shadow on my
Now
end.
they're a little gray because of the curtains, but that's okay. This is good. This is I'm glad we're able to talk about this episode. I know our schedules were getting a little crazy, and yesterday's episode is definitely one that we got to talk about. Man, there was a lot to it.
It really is. You know, you have obligations of being a husband and a father. I'm a committed man myself, going to be married here in a couple of months, as we talk about from time to time here on the show. And I am excited because this is listen, I put a ring on it. I think she's going to stick with me. But I'm about to smoke ribs today. And if there's anything that Mandy loves, it's ribs. And if I do this well, I think I'm really securing myself for happily ever after. So I'll let you know how it goes next week. Got 2 racks of ribs. We're going to do a dry rub on one. We're going to make them wet on the other. Yeah, baby. And I will take photos, and I'll post those on the social to share with everyone about my experience. But, yeah, this episode was ridiculous because it's not holding back. And that's what I love about this season. We're only 2 episodes in, but they're not wasting any time. You go back to what we talked about last week on the show, Pete, and I said they can't waste any time. The second episode, they have to go and they have to find Echo and tell you whether or not he is around. And as always, on Streaming Star Wars with Ammo and Fletzer, we are spoiler heavy. So if you have not watched this episode yet, do yourself a favor, go watch it real quick. I'm sure we'll still be talking in about 25 minutes. You can come back and we can have the Star Wars conversation. But I've got to say, that the moment the episode starts, just with that opening shot where they're cruising in, I was hooked. I think that's one of the best openings, top 5 openings of an episode to cross all 7 seasons. And my gosh, that last 5 minutes just absolutely delivered, and I buy it. It all felt very Star Wars, which is something that for example, like the Night Sisters. It took me a couple of years for me to really buy into that whole concept because it's magic, and I didn't really view the Force as magic, but I know like a lot of people kind of still do. So warmed up to that over a long period of time, but this whole mind manipulation device that Wat Tambor has set up, just really interesting, and would like to learn more about that. How were you able to watch? Did you stick to your cell phone, or did you watch it on the big screen?
No, this one actually, the way my schedule worked out, I was able to take some time during a lunch break yesterday, got in front of my big screen TV, and I watched it. Nobody was home. The kids were at school. I turned it up, and I soaked this one in, and I'm really glad I did. I think there was, as you said, it's really great to watch them kind of not just they are only 12 episodes, right? So the whole 22 episodes, which gives you some time to build, that is gone. So they really have to do a lot with these episodes, and it felt like a film. It felt like a major motion picture. Just all the dust storms and just the atmosphere of the episode was so good. It looked good. It sounded great. And to your point, they're not wasting time, man. They're just jumping right into the full to the full action, which is really great. And I think it's going to make this 12 episodes just feel really kinetic and really high pace and like no time to breathe, which is great. I mean, and there was one other thing that I wanted to mention to you about it, which is interesting. I think I was listening to, I think it was the guys on Force Center, Knapsack and just Scrimshaw. Yeah. And one of the things that Knapsack mentioned that I hadn't thought about, and he's 100% right, is the episodes happen with so much action that you almost forget what story points you picked up. And not just this season, but Clone Wars for the last seven seasons, right? There's a lot of pew 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 pew, and then a little bit of story development, and then pew pew, and the action though is great. So you don't even recognize that you're being flooded with action. You're exhausted after 22 minutes or whatever it is.
Well, and I think that's really wonderful to point out, because a complaint of the series when it first began in 2008 or whatever it was is that those episodes took a really long time to develop, and those 22 minutes felt like a very long 22 minutes. I mean, we talk about it all the time. That ambush episode felt random. Why? Because that episode is like chronologically not supposed to come first, and like the whole Rise of Benevolence arc, everything felt. It just all felt slow. The pacing is more rapid. I got to tell you, Pete, I was mentioning this before we started today's show. I watched the episode in my car. Actually, technically it's Mandy's car, 20-something Equinox. Anyways, surround sound. This elevated my viewing experience, and I'm not BSing you when I make the suggestion. I want you to watch this episode in your car, hook it up to the stereo system in there. You're being bombarded. You get the music out of the back right. You get the sound effects back left. You're getting the stomping of the ATTE, the walkers there at the very beginning of the episode, coming up at your front left, and the voice. It is so well balanced. And I just don't get that experience watching, out of my, I have a 42-inch TV, okay? That's a big TV in my life. Probably not as big as yours, Pete, but it's rather large for me, okay? And the speaker, the sound, it goes out back and then it comes forward. I don't have the best sound. And so, these episodes have never sounded so good. And so I'm driving back last night and I got the episode. I mean, I am like laughing and smiling. I'm giddy just because how overwhelmed I am when you have the sound hitting your ears the way it's meant to from the mixing room. My gosh, it elevates your experience like tenfold. So if you have time, maybe it's better if you have tinted windows so people don't think you're going crazy. But go run out in the car and watch one of these episodes. I think you'll have an absolute blast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that is one of the great things about Clone Wars that I had mentioned it a number of times on the show, and that is that it took me a while to get caught up to Clone Wars and dig into Clone Wars and sort of be all in. And I'm just amazed all the time at how cinematic it is, how much it feels like a motion picture. It feels, it feels bigger than Mandalorian at times. So I'm really pleased with what we got yesterday.
So we have a couple of points that we want to talk about. There's controversy. We'll touch on that later, I think, in the show. But there's three things that we wanted to really outline, and that's Rex and his complexity emotionally in this. We have some Anakin and Obi-Wan. I mean, it's two lines, and it's a facial expression, but it really modifies how we view Revenge of the Sith, I think. And then, this third point, I just think it's interesting how the Separatists, I really liked what I liked about the Separatists and the Trade Federation is it felt like there was a lot of uniformity that was reflective in the Empire, where originally the Empire just had the Stormtrooper, and then we found out they had the Hoth Trooper, and then they found out they had the Scout Trooper. Okay, they had pilots. Okay, but it was very uniform. Now there's 37 different ranks of trooper. But what I liked about the Trade Federation, the Separatists, was you had that one battle droid. Okay, and then you had the Droideka. Okay, then you had the Super. Okay, all right, I can understand this. Those are the commando droids. It's interesting, though. Here we are, Wat Tambor gets these brand new battle droids. They seem to have the same voices as our regular droids. They look cool, though, and I like how each of the big players kind of has their own take on not just the look, but they have their own army. It's interesting.
I found myself waiting that whole episode to hear Wrecker or somebody say, "What kind of droids are these?" Because I noticed that they were different, but the voices were the same, but they had a different shape. And so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I noticed it, and it was distracting in that I was waiting for somebody on the show to mention it, but in a way it's good that they didn't. No, I mean, nobody's ever in the original trilogy going, "Hey, those stormtroopers look like they're made for the snow." There's I think it was cool, but it was definitely I noticed it. It's a great catch.
I had a lot of fun with that, and also just again we're getting 22 more minutes with the Bad Batch characters. I think out of all of them, I think Tech is my favorite one. It seems to have the most diverse skill set. The fact that he can just basically take ad lib and translate it and be able to speak with primitive species. I think is really cool. His
Yep.
ability in battle is really impressive, and he's the nerd of the group. I mean, you expect
Yeah.
Wrecker to wreck, and you expect Hunter to be able to hunt, and you have oh my gosh, not Deadshot, but
Oh man.
something Grid.
I had it a second ago and I
Dang
can't remember it.
nabbit. I'm so disappointed in
Yeah.
myself. But I mean, but that tells you I don't even remember his name because I think he's been utilized the least. I think Tech is the coolest one, and they're infiltrating this base. They're trying to track down Echo's signal, and I had the thought, it's like you have like 45 droids, and maybe this is just me, but
Right.
I feel like Anakin uses the Force to blow like 7 droids over. It's like, bro,
Yep.
just a little bit more effort. You probably could have taken out all 40. But again, that would be robbing us of this action sequence and action upon action upon action that you were talking about.
Yep.
So I think from a choreography, pacing, just a lot of fun.
Well, I hope, and again, I did not watch the Bad Batch arc that when it was on StarWars.com in animatic form, so I don't know how it ends.
Wow,
Which
you're not a
doing
real
my best.
fan. You're not a real fan.
Yeah. I'm not a real. That's true. I'm not a real fan. I don't read all the comic books and I haven't memorized all the novels. But otherwise, I do okay. But where I'm going with this is I'm hopeful that all 4 of the Bad Batch survive and we get a side series from them because they are made to. They are perfectly built to create a series. You got all 4 of them have their own very unique skills. Without each other, where they lack. They're really lacking. Like so, Wrecker is good for one thing. Tech is good for a couple things, but he's not. He needs Wrecker, or he's going to get destroyed. And so, putting them all together would be so cool to see. I'd love to see sort of a spin-off series or another short, sub series or something with these guys. I love them.
And Crosshair is the name
Crosshair.
of the
That's
trooper.
it.
Thank you,
Damn
Rural
it.
Farm Boy. That's the benefit of doing this show live, is because people can cover ourselves when we just don't quite remember what the hell is going on. All right, so let's get into this. The first thing is, and this is a carryover from the first episode here of Season 7, Rex, I think you can make the argument that he is almost like emotionally unstable. He is convinced that Echo is alive. And obviously we learn, he is, as this episode plays out. When we think of a clone, and we have had a similar conversation in the past, but when you think of the clones, they're as human robotically as they could possibly be. Or maybe they're as robotically human as they could possibly be. They're just taken from Jango Fett, and they're there to be soldiers. And Clone Wars humanizes these brothers. But I think what's interesting is, and this will tie into the second topic today, Rex being around Anakin for all these battles, all these skirmishes, if that has an impact on Rex and how he interprets this situation that he might be able to find Echo. And you get into guilt. He feels guilty that he left Echo behind on that battle and he didn't go back for him. And these are complex emotions that we don't really anticipate maybe having with these clone troopers. But that's what the series overall has done, is enabled us to develop a relationship. But it's also allowed these characters to develop relationships with each other and to have compassion for each other. Because we've seen some clones not. And I was wondering, is that something that resonated with you? How so? Or are we really looking into it? It just seems like such a massive plot point here with the early goings here of Season 7.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting to me about it, and I don't know if I would say unstable, but certainly humanized, and I think that's that's one of those things. Just like the point that I think we're going to get to in a second around Obi-Wan and Anakin, but it changes the way you look at Clone Wars or changes the way you look at the movies that deal with the Clone Wars in both Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. You see they're human, and I think I might have mentioned it last week, but when in that opening battle of Revenge of the Sith over Coruscant, and you see Anakin risking his own life to save some clone pilots in trouble. at the time, in 20 years ago when the film came out, it was like, oh, it's showing a side of Anakin. But now we know why. I mean, he cared about every single one of those guys out there. So that's really important. And I think the whole concept, and I think that's one thing that Filoni has done phenomenally well from day one with Clone Wars, was to build that humanity into the clones. And, I don't think it's any secret that the reason Lucas created the battle droids for Phantom Menace and moving forward was because it would be very hard to get a PG rating when you had Jedi cutting through human beings like butter, like they do through the battle droids. And so to use the clones in the Clone Wars series to reinforce the humanity versus technology theme, which came to life in A New Hope, to bring that to life here, the way Filoni has, and is now sort of culminating in this final season where the first 2 episodes are about the humanity of the clones. That says a lot, and it makes for a very exciting and very interesting show.
Well, and what you pointed out on last week's episode, and a conversation I definitely think people should listen to, is the fact that when you go back and you rewatch Revenge of the Sith for a lot of reasons, just that opening sequence where Anakin wants to go back and help the clones, well, there's a lot more emotional gravitas. Why that makes a lot more sense. Obi-Wan's like, just ditch him. Well, that's kind of not as consistent now because Obi-Wan, while he is a rules guy, he has shown that he bends, and he has a similar relationship with Cody. Although I would say that the Rex Anakin dynamic is way more intense. But yeah, Anakin has a reason to want to fall back, and that's what we're getting more of here with this series, and it ties into this situation where, all right, so they're gonna dump the Bad Batch off, but Rex has to help Anakin with that thing. And that thing is to stall so that he can talk to Padme in the bunker. And, this is twofold. One, I think it's interesting that, he's confiding with Padme that, he's worried about Rex's emotions getting the best of him. And she calls his shit out.
Yep.
And she's like, well, how are you even surprised at this? He's at your side in all these battles. You need to be there for him. I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know if this might be looking into it too much, but she had her hand on her stomach, and I'm going to pay close attention to that because of what we've seen in the trailer. Eventually she's going to start showing, and it's going to be interesting to see how the timeline jumps around like this. It feels as if maybe we're only a few months before the events of Revenge of the Sith. But I liked that whole idea that, hey, we got to do this thing. It's like 2 kids at the playground, trying to like sneak their Pokemon cards out there so they can make a trade.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because that scene was, I thought that was the scene that was from the trailer that had us all believe that he realized she was pregnant. It's not unlike Clone Wars to not tell us where in the timeline we are. Maybe this is taking place at some point closer to that battle than we thought. And so I think that would be great. And I love that, I wonder, and I think it was one of those things that was, to me, not 100% clear. I wonder if the Obi-Wan line of, I hope you at least told Padme I said hello, or whatever the line was that the first time that Anakin knew that Obi-Wan knew? And so, because I don't think that was totally clear, at least in my opinion.
I think I'm so glad you brought that up because to me that was the greatest reveal of the episode. I understand that the whole plot is that we have to go to hunt down Tambor and find Echo to see if he's actually alive. But that exchange between Obi-Wan and Anakin completely makes you reevaluate those scenes in Revenge of the Sith, where he's going. Obi-Wan is talking to Padme. Telling, just these moments where Obi-Wan has given counsel to Anakin.
Yep.
He knows what's going on. He 100% knows, and he didn't just find out in that movie. He found out whenever these episodes are taking place, and honestly, it goes back. There's episodes earlier in the Clone Wars where there's been allusion. It's been alluded to that Anakin and Padme had feelings, but this was like, he said it. This is out there. This is the most concrete statement that we've gotten from Obi-Wan prior to the events of Revenge of the Sith that say, hey,
Yeah.
he knows about this scandal, which to me is really exciting, and it makes him a lot more relatable as a character, because what we know here in Season 7 is, in the last season, no, I take it back. It was in Season 5, right? That's when Duchess Satine dies with the whole Mandalorian conflict. And so what we don't know in Revenge of the Sith, when we saw it for the first time in 2005, is the fact that he actually fell in love. And he lost that love to the same person, the same creature that took away his master. And so, you get into the emotional complexities there of Obi-Wan. Again, I thought it was great. And that little look that Anakin gave for animated characters, a lot was made. A lot was said with that grimace.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because I like to believe, and I think we're going to find out as we go through this season, I like to believe that was the first time that he tipped that he knew, because it also, that will add the last 10 episodes. You're going to have some that's going to come to light, and I think it also now changes, and it will continue to change the line in Revenge of the Sith when Obi-Wan realizes that Padme is pregnant, and what does he ask her? They're Anakin's, and she says yes, it's Anakin's, right? Not them, because they don't know it's twins yet. But he says that, and then he says that's unfortunate, and so maybe he's not aware of how deep the relationship is, or what. But it certainly changes Revenge of the Sith completely. It changes that entire thing completely. And if it's only Obi-Wan that knows, and then you take that and he rushes off the ship to go see her off to the side at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, that relationship's a little different.
It really does. And that's, again, another reason why I'm so thankful that we get to go back to the Clone Wars for one last ride and get these little Easter. I mean, hindsight is 20/20. You have the opportunity here to make some things even, flesh them out even more. A couple curveballs that we didn't expect, but somehow it connects to the actual saga films. I'm just excited to see what Dave Filoni and crew have in store for us here the next couple of episodes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. 10 to go. We have about, 8 weeks left. I believe... I think they are releasing one episode a week. I could have that wrong. For some reason, I thought they put the last 2 episodes out on the last day, but I could be.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up and see what the release schedule is.
Hey, let's talk about this though, because we mentioned Padme, and it is a bit of controversy. We have some people in the live chat asking about the animatics that were on StarWars.com for a little while. Asking if we had seen those, and I do think it's pretty interesting, Pete, because the controversy surrounds Padme Amidala. We get a lot more Padme in the Clone Wars than we did in Revenge of the Sith. Maybe because there was some controversy on set. But anyways, the point here is the fact that you brought up a really good point. What we get in this episode is not there. There's an exchange that's missing in one of those original animatronics. I'll let you take the lead on this.
Yeah. So, and I was unaware of it until I saw a little bit of a dust up on the Twitters. So I went, I looked it up, and because as I mentioned before, I haven't watched the animatics which is great because I'm going into these episodes really fresh. But I did find it's people are referring to it as the Padme nose art. So instead of the scene where Padme and Anakin speak over hologram, Anakin comes out, the Bad Batch is boarding their ship, and Anakin says, "What's that?" And they look up, and on the nose of the ship is like sort of a World War II fighter pilot kind of sexy image of Padme. And Hunter says something to the effect of, "Oh, that's our senator. We watch her on the hollows all the time." And Wrecker says, "She can negotiate with me anytime." And they took that out. And it's interesting because my perspective, and I tweeted about it this morning, was that I'm glad they took it out, because to me it didn't. I understand completely where they were going with it. They were trying to maintain that sort of World War II buddy pilot fighter sort of thing, but it felt a little bit out of place to me, and it kind of objectified Padme in a way that was probably not necessary. And again, I'm not woke or PC or anything like that, but it didn't feel like it fit the vibe of the show to me. So I'm glad they did it. And I think actually the scene that they had with Padme and Anakin is more powerful in getting across that Anakin and Padme have this relationship, that and it also allowed that Obi-Wan comment to come out.
And you have a really good point, Pete. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I kind of disagree with you on it because I think the scene would have worked. One, because maybe you get a little bit more play with Anakin, where you get like that like jealousy, or maybe it's embarrassment, or whatever the emotion would be. But he would be miffed. We can agree he would be miffed about it, as you describe in that scene. But also, as the story of Clone Wars has been told over the 7 seasons, the tone itself has increasingly become more adult.
Yeah.
And the fun thing about, I think, the target audience for Clone Wars in Season 1 is that this series grew up with that target audience. So, for the 12-year-old or 13-year-old that was watching that first season, well, they're 18, 19 when Season 5 hits, Season 6 hits, a little bit after that. So now the people that grew up, because as the series is to get in even more new fans, it's also a reward for all those fans that kept asking Lucasfilm and Disney to make this happen. Bring back the Clone Wars. Clone Wars saved. We saw that hashtag for years. And so a little adult humor, I think, would have been fine. And I think it's enough tongue-in-cheek to where, like the best. If you're old enough and your mind's going to go there, okay, that humor satisfies you. But also, if you're a younger, more innocent mind, you don't recognize maybe the crude illusion, and you're just like, oh, that's funny. They think she's pretty, whatever. So I think it would have worked. It doesn't hinder my experience. I think the episode is still very strong. I probably enjoyed this episode, honestly. I'd say a bit more than episode 1, and I thought episode 1, season 7, was a really great, aggressive start to the season. But like you mentioned, that just the action, the layers of action really make these episodes move, and you feel like you accomplish a lot in a short amount of time, which is nice because there was a time where the internet thought that maybe we would be getting longer episodes of the Clone Wars. But I'm glad that the decision was to stay within the format. 21, 22 minutes, 3 acts. Let's make it happen. And so very happy with the product that we did see yesterday that dropped.
Well, I'll say this too. I think one of the things that has impressed me most, and I think I don't think I mentioned this last time, but I am just finally getting to season 6 of Clone Wars. So I'm still a little bit behind. I've been watching with Jack, and in the episodes, I finally made it through to the end of the arc where Fives dies. Spoiler alert! In episode in season 6, and the ability to bring emotion to these animated characters. I felt horrible watching Fives die, just like I felt horrible watching Satine die. And when Echo is found in this episode, it's the same thing. I am amazed and so impressed with the way I care about these characters. And when Echo falls, he's released from that chamber, and he's a mess mentally and physically. They did such a great job of bringing that together that to your point about sort of adult level episodes. Yeah, I mean, those are deep, heavy emotions we're dealing with in these episodes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out too. Things that make sense. I really enjoyed this whole idea that they're not losing. Tech isn't losing Echo's signal because there's interference. It's because Echo is sending out the signal, and that's when he's able to pick it up. And so I'm thinking, oh wow, okay, so if that's how it is, then I wonder, did Echo turn because he was bitter that Rex didn't come back and save him, or is he somehow being manipulated? We've seen mind control before in Star Wars, but something like this where he's not in carbonite, but he's in this like freezing chamber that's kind of keeping him just alive enough for them to manipulate his mind. It kind of felt kind of alien to me, seeing him, drop out with all the cables and tubes hooked up to him.
Yeah.
But it felt really good, and it was like, I love it when Star Wars crosses genres. It kind of felt like we got into like a horror movie, and here's the monster reveal or something, and that was really satisfying for me because great stories have great tonal shifts. A Western, a really good Western is not just that Western. There's gonna be like a romance. There's gonna be suspense. There's gonna be the gunslinging. The duel in the streets. It has all these different ingredients, and so and just like visually, the aesthetic And I'm not trying to go on a rant, but I really really impressed with this final act of this episode because you go in, it's kind of like this green um, room, very futuristic, kind of alien. It has the communication screens are the same ones you saw in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, how the screen swirls and up comes a face. And I like the aesthetic that is definitely rooted in what we know of Wat Tambor from the limited stuff that we've seen with Attack of the Clones and here in Clone Wars.
Yep. And I hadn't noticed it until I saw somebody mention it online, and then I really noticed it was that Wat Tambor's look has now evolved to really match what he looked like in Revenge of the Sith, whereas he was always the same character. But and I don't know if you'll notice it too, but subtly he looks a lot more like he did on screen in the movie. So again, not that he didn't before, but it was enough of that. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it's funny you say that because the ability to go from the outdoor world of this planet, which was frightening, and the different levels of height, and then when they went inside the the base. Why can't I think of the name of the town that or the city that they called it? Whatever. It was fantastic because it changed as well, and it became a different and almost to your point, almost horror movie feel, right? Even though there was nothing that was classic horror movie, even the environment felt horror movie. It was a lot of great suspense.
Yeah, I'm looking off screen right now because I went to the internet to do some research on Wat Tambor. You're talking about his look, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull myself up on camera real quick. I'm hunched over. I'm sorry, everybody. And I'm going to bring this over on my screen. I want to pull this up, and I want to see if we can together take a look at the differences between Wat Tambor in Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones, because I think that you will be interested. I think you'll be interested in the subtle differences. I didn't notice this, Pete. I think your eye is a lot more attentive than I am on some of these things. I didn't really see a significant difference, but here I'm gonna pull up this image, and we can take a look at them together. And yeah, you're not wrong. There are some differences. So let me see if I can pull this up. Wat Tambor is one of those guys where it's like you just thought he was going to be a background character in Attack of the Clones, and then he ends up having this nice role. And again, it's thanks to being able to go back in this series. The issue is he doesn't have that much of a look in. Here we go. He doesn't have that much of a screen time when it comes to Revenge of the Sith. So let's see if I did this right. Okay, cool. So let's see. Here, let's see the full-size image. All right, cool. So if you're looking at the screen right now, if you're watching us live, if you're listening to the podcast version, you're just waiting for us.
Use your imagination.
Yeah, close your eyes and dream. Pretend with us. Okay,
not if you're driving them.
Yeah, right. Please. Oh my God, if you're driving, please keep your eyes open. It's very important. So here we are. This is Revenge of the Sith, and I don't know why I'm starting here. I probably should have started Clone Wars, but it's the blue cloth sleeves and the armor, and he's got these two tubes that kind of come out of the front of the mask. Okay, and the green head, you kind of do see the divot up there. I wish we had straight on. How cool would it have been if this was Plagueis instead of the Banging Clan guy? I'm just saying. Okay, so anyway, then you go over here to Clone Wars, and the armor is it's not drastically different, but it looks like it's a difference of silver and like platinum. But I do think, I mean, here in the show, and I think I can pull this up because I actually have Wat Tambor. I actually have a shot of Wat from the episode, and it is always interesting. It's kind of like the same thing with Legos, right? Kylo Ren shuttle that they did for Force Awakens was the wrong color, and the wings did wrong. The wrong action. But it worked, right? Because it was like, well, those were early renderings. All right, fine, whatever. So now they've gone back this last year, and they were able to come up with a more movie-accurate version, which we all, I think, appreciate. Season 7, Episode 2. Let's pull this up. Wat Tambor. Here we go. We got this. And Pull him up right here, and now I'm going to go full with Watt. And here's Watt. This is from the Clone Wars. So, there's subtle changes. I guess my thing is I didn't notice it because I guess I don't see anything drastic about it.
I think to me it's a couple things that I think are tying this season more closely to the movie. That it's silly things like the length of Anakin's hair, right? It's more like he looked when we met him at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. So I feel like they're pulling us closer to that, and again, this is the brilliance of Filoni and of that story group and of the people bringing us this content. And it's a difference, frankly, between the way JJ has brought us Star Wars and the way these guys bring us Star Wars. It's this attention to detail, the fact that we're getting a Wat Tambor that looks more like what we saw in the movie. We're getting Anakin looking a little bit more like he did in the film. So it's those sort of things that show me that these are sort of handouts to the fans.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Because here, take a look at this. Okay, so I found this is the whole point of me bringing this up. All right, because yes, what we get here in this episode is a lot more consistent to your point with the movies, but what we got in Clone Wars, very inaccurate compared to Attack of the Clones, very inaccurate to what we get with Revenge of the Sith. So as you're saying, Filoni and crew going back, and they have the opportunity to smooth things out. Maybe Wat Tambor had different suits, but based on this, I don't know how he could get out of that thing. I feel like Watt's just in there. But no, I think that's a great point. And also your point with the hair. With Anakin, it's these subtle things, and it's these opportunities to flesh that out. Even like Obi-Wan looks a little bit more, Revenge of the Sithy. I just, again, we talked about it last week. Just the detail with the hair, it goes a long way, not making it all look so claymation like.
Yep.
Are you back? Oh,
I'm here.
He's back.
Yep. Yeah, I left. I took a trip. I came back.
We went on a rant. I went on a rant, but
it all makes sense. And I think this is what you get with streaming Star Wars. You don't get. Remember at that 18-minute mark when the guy said this, you get weird sort of deep impression versus storytelling. So hopefully those of you in the live chat are sticking around with us. And but this is fun. This is the way I like to talk about Star Wars. I just had a conversation the other day with one of my guests on my other show, and we were talking about how the great thing about podcasting and about the internet today and social media is you can find people who want to talk about Star Wars the way you love to talk about it. And I think Dave, that's what you and I have done with streaming Star Wars and getting together, is you and I talk about Star Wars the same way. We look at the same kind of things, and it's fun. So thanks for indulging my commentary on Wat Tambor. Not too many people would do that.
You let me. You allowed me to go off on a 7-minute tangent on Wat Tambor. So I don't think it was that long. I think it was like 2.5 minutes. But I really wanted to visually make the point that you were right. I'm here to tell the world that you were right. A couple of comments in the live chat that I think are really cool. One, Mr. Rez says that we need a Wat Tambor Black Series figure. I would agree.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to see if it comes out now after this conversation. I have to buy it.
Yeah, well, we get credit and we have to buy it, or maybe they should give it to us, Hasbro. But
yeah, hello, if you're listening.
All the Separatist leaders, I think that there should be like a Poggle the Lesser, and we should definitely get someone from the Baking Clan. They have the Legends.
The Baking Clan? Did you say baking or banking?
I meant banking, but I maybe said baking. That's my fault. I still want to find the Revan. They have a Jedi Revan.
I saw that.
That looks
nice. I haven't found it. Oh man,
I think it's a GameStop exclusive. C Loss 189, a good friend of mine from the comic book collecting days. He says, "Hey David, Bad Batch reminds me of Ninja Turtles version of Clone Wars." But I think he's right. I don't think he's wrong.
I think he is.
The personalities.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know my Ninja Turtles all that well. But yeah, if I'm going on like, okay, there's 4 of these guys and there's 4 of those guys. One was more techie, one was more nerdy.
Yeah, 4 different personalities that work. 4 great tastes that taste great together. I guess. Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Who's Splinter though? Not Splinter. Who's the teacher? I don't know my Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. That was a little bit younger or I was a little bit too old for that.
We'll see.
You're talking about the rat.
Yeah, the
rat guy.
His Splinter was the villain. And this I would say splitter in this would be like Wat Tambor can be that guy. That's
all right. Yep.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Live chat really active here on a Saturday afternoon, and we really just appreciate everyone jumping in, visiting with us. We had the decision, of course we had the decision. We made the decision to do the show this afternoon. We got things going on today, and we still didn't want to miss a week. Wanted to get out here and go live on YouTube and have a conversation about the episode. I'd like to have a conversation now, as we're kind of past that half-hour mark, and we're kind of in the final stretch here of the episode, Pete. Before I go grill some magnificent baby back ribs, smoke them, and grill them.
You're going to smoke some baby back ribs, and I'm going to pack. This time tomorrow, I will be I'll be getting off a plane in Los Angeles, California. So I'll be. I know I said that wrong. I said it silly on purpose, but
no, Pete. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to give you the moment. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Okay, Pete.
What?
Go ahead, rub it in our faces.
What
are you gonna do?
No, I'm just.
You're such a jerk.
I'm so excited. Look. I will be texting you images from underneath the Millennium Falcon in Galaxy's Edge tomorrow afternoon when I'm there. And I told a friend of mine, actually, the guy who edited my my novel. I said, I hope I don't cry. Like, I'm so excited to see this thing. It's out of control. I can't wait. So anyway, that's where I'll be tomorrow, which is why we're doing this. One of the reasons we're doing this afternoon is because I have to pack. I have to be up before the sun tomorrow morning. I'm going to be getting up at rural farm boy hours tomorrow to get over to the airport and get to California. So,
when you were like, I'm going to take photos from underneath, I didn't know where you were going with that statement. So I'm really glad that you quickly clarified the Millennium Falcon. No, I want all the photos. I just, I give Pete a lot of trouble because he lives a life that I would like to live, in which he just. Well, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to go hang out with Jason Ward.
Yeah. Well, no, it's directly related to my corporate activity that I'm doing, and so I'm going a day, or I'm taking a day away from my family to be with a fellow Star Wars fan in Los Angeles, taking pictures and flying.
That's not a great sacrifice because you give us about an hour and a half every Friday or Saturday night, so you've already given a day away from your family. So you're literally doubling the time now. This is a lot of investment here for streaming Star Wars.
Let's see how much I care.
Oh my God, unbelievable, unbelievable! Everyone having a good time in the live chat. That's good to see. Pete, let's have a conversation about what's next here for Clone Wars specifically. Episode 3 drops on Friday. The date we are entering March. 2020 is going by like a flash in the pan. Is that the cliche? Flash in the pan.
It might be, but yes, I know what you're saying.
I have a really bad tendency of messing up cliches. Like my favorite one that Mandy will bring up is I really don't like it when you burn my bubble. It's burst your bubble. We might have actually talked about this before on the show. I screw them up all the time because I was never allowed to use them in college when I did play-by-play, and so if I ever used a cliche, it was points off. So, but that Friday, it will be March 6th. March 6th will be Episode 3 of Season 7 of the Clone Wars. And where does this episode have to go? Because I feel like it has to be more. I don't think it's going to be as easy to get Echo back to the Republic base as we might think.
It's dangerous to say because the animatics exist. So I think people, and even Rural Farm Boy was mentioning in the chat, you'll be excited to see next week. So we do know that it's going to be something. I think it's. I just hope the Bad Batch survives. That's my main thing. I think we know Rex is going to make it out. We don't know what's going to happen to Echoes. I hope the Bad Batch makes it out. And then you know what? As much as I'm loving this arc with only 12 total episodes, I kind of want to get into the whatever's next. I want to get back into some of the get closer to Revenge of the Sith stuff.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Because I want to get as close to Revenge of the Sith as we possibly can, as fast as we can. Will make me a happy guy. We got some breaking news. I'll go ahead and shout out our friends over at StarWarsNewsNet.com.
Yeah, what do you got?
We got some not so breaking news, but some confirmation. Ron Howard confirms Bryce Dallas Howard is returning to The Mandalorian.
That's great.
James Mangold is not involved with Mandalorian Season 2. And Taika Waititi just being a goofball over there. So thanks to StarWarsNewsNet.com, all those good people over there. John Hoey, of course, the host of the Resistance broadcast over there.
That's good.
So there's a little Mandalorian update. See, we go live on a Saturday afternoon. We can throw out some breaking news. I mean, that other people broke. I mean, they broke it. I'm just reading it off of Twitter. But some people, depending on who you watch, what websites you watch, they would call that breaking news. I don't. Listen, I'm not here to define journalistic integrity. I just abide by it because I'm a professional. Damn it. I'm really open.
So
go ahead.
It's interesting though because there's with there was apparently there was a leaked name of the working title for the Kenobi series, which I also saw on Streaming Star Wars, and not streaming. That's us. We're Streaming Star Wars. I saw it on Star Wars Newsnet. Apparently, the working title is The Pilgrim.
Okay.
Which may, I don't know if that tells us anything about the show or not. Is that like as relevant as Blue Harvest, or does it have something to do with the way the story is going to go? But the good news is, if there's a working title, that means that the rumors of it slowing down are false. Surprise, surprise.
Well, not necessarily. That working title can be happening. I mean, that's the name of the production, but not just like the actual production. So they could still be working on the scripts.
Sure.
But they had that working title.
Yeah, I'll bet you they are taking their time with it, and I'm totally cool with that.
Well, I'm
not agreed.
They want to get it right.
Yep.
Did I clip your wings there, Pete?
No, not at all, man. Not at all.
Pete Fletcher.
David Amoletti.
Yeah, thank you for saying my name right. I'm right there with you. I do think that we're going to lose either Hunter or Wrecker out of the Bad Batch. I think Hunter would be the obvious one to go down first. So I don't think that they will stay intact. I think what it's going to be is Hunter, because he has shown in the first 2 episodes, he's like, well, he's just, he's referred to Echo as just a reg clone, like a regular clone. And he doesn't seem to have the compassion for his peers like, Rex and others have displayed. Pardon me. So I could see him sacrificing himself to give Rex a chance to get Echo out of there.
Yep.
I could see it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have intentionally not gone back to watch that animatic. I don't remember what happened in it. So I'm being 100% genuine with you in this moment. I don't remember. So this is my guess. And seeing that go down, I think that would be kind of cool. And show that those clones are also have the ability to grow emotionally. Mandy's walking around. I'm calling her out. She's trying to like duck and not knock lights over, and she's gonna walk away from me now. Can I have a cream pie? Like an oatmeal cream pie, people. Don't get excited. Okay, cool. So that's kind of like what I'm envisioning. Pete's like, why do I do this show? This guy just talked about journalistic integrity, and now he's asking for a Nabisco product. Is it Nabisco? No, that's not Nabisco. That's a Little Debbie, right?
Now you're getting even more dangerous. Let's move on from that.
She just threw me a cream pie on this. Oh my God, she's winning all the points. God,
you should marry that girl. You should marry that girl.
I'm marrying that woman. I cannot wait. Although I got to tell you this. So I'm a brand snob. Okay, it took me a very long time to admit this. And this is gonna be the last topic if you want on the show, because it's not really Star Wars related. But I'm a brand snob. I like my Van Heusen clothes. I like my Izod polos. I like to shop at Schnucks, the grocery store in St. Louis, and when I'm not there, I like to find the nearest Hy-Vee. But Mandy, she's thrifty and she is practical, and so she has over time convinced me that Aldi for some pieces of nourishment are valid. So. She's like, for $1, my favorite thing to do on a road trip is I go fill up the gas tank, I get a 32-ounce Diet Coke, and I get a 50-cent oatmeal cream pie, okay? And if I'm really lucky, they'll have the double-decker. So she's like, for $1, I could get you a box of those from Aldi. I'm like, that sounds great. Saves me a lot of money. So she got me the Aldi. The Aldi brand, I don't know if you can tell, guys, this is not a full-sized cream pie, okay? This is like a 15-cent cream pie, okay? The 50 cent is like twice the size of this little guy, but it tastes the same, so I'm happy. And you're thinking to yourself, why are you complaining? I'm really not. I'm just happy that I have a cream pie in this moment. I'm able to share the story with you. Oh my God, it's so good. If you're watching this right now, you just saw me put it in my mouth.
This is peak professionalism. What class did they teach you that when you're live on the air not to eat? Was that the first or the second?
Well,
class?
what's interesting is they suggest you always have a bottle of water nearby or a glass of water, so that way when your throat gets dry, you just turn the microphone and you can take a drink, just like this guy. With your expensive Yeti. That's great. Now,
You'll notice I drink constantly during the show, and it's usually water. Well, it's not usually, but
Fletcher.
today it's water because it's Saturday afternoon. I have stuff to do.
$100 cup to hold water. Unbelievable. So anyways,
I put an Around the Galaxy sticker over the company that donated it to me.
Here's the shameless plug. I'm just trying to eat my cream pie here, Pete. Do you mind? No, I think.
Well, I have to speak while you got your mouth full of cream pie.
I think there is some value here in this. It took me a really long time to have the comfort to speak and just be myself doing this. If you go watch like the first 2 seasons of Beyond the Blast Doors, absolute trash by me. Not comfortable at all. I'm stressed out. I'm not very, because radio was always the hardest for me. TV, you can eat on TV. I've eaten TV. It was National Taco Day a while ago. I got tacos. I'm eating tacos on TV. You wish you could be me. And now I'm eating oatmeal cream pies on streaming Star Wars. It's delicious. So, and now you have your son rubbing your shoulder. See, this is a sweet, tender moment.
See, you can definitely tell it's a Saturday afternoon version. We're a little bit, we're going a little bit off the rails, but in a good way, and we're having fun, and that's what Saturday afternoons are all about.
Dude, I'm about to go smoke some racks of ribs. I can't wait. Okay, so let's remind the good people, because I think we're done. I think we've probably, I think we've offered just about as much as we can this week. God, I got cream pie in my teeth now. It's delicious. A snack for later. Yum. Okay, so hey, you can always follow us on Streaming Star Wars at StreamingSW on Twitter. Live show. It's always here at Beyond the Blast Doors. And we try and give you at least 24 hours ahead notice, but with our schedule, sometimes the times just change. But you can always count on the next day after we go live, you'll always be able to get the audio version. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, just search Around the Galaxy, and Streaming Star Wars is on Pete's Around the Galaxy podcast feed. We've done some polls recently. We've asked for your input. Do we need to get our own YouTube channel for Streaming Star Wars? Do we want to do our own podcast feed for Streaming Star Wars? And it sounds like right now, where we're putting the content makes a lot of sense, and it works for a lot of people. It could change. We don't know. But I think for right now, we're going to keep it as is, and that's quite all right. You know where to go find it. You always find us every week. We find you. We're happy about that. And, Pete, before I let you go, anything that you want to shout out here while you have a dog in your lap?
I saw Tumed, too, was talking about his puppy. And if Charlie Skywalker is on the line, he's got to meet. This is Charlie, since he walked into my room. Here he is. He's Charlie. What do I have going on? Well, next week, I'm debating whether or not I do a marathon, 2.5 hours. I had an interview late on Thursday night with Steele Saunders, and I'm debating if I do it in 2 parts or 1. But either way, you're going to get some Around the Galaxy featuring Steele Saunders next week. So if you're a fan of his, check that episode out. And that's about it. And of course, follow me on Twitter, and you're going to see more pictures of Galaxy's Edge than you probably want to. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's what I got going on.
I'm biased. I think you should do 2 episodes. Don't cut that conversation short. So glad that Steele met with you. Super cool guy. Really nice.
Yeah, he was great. He was so much fun. He was a lot of fun.
Super cool. I'm trying to get the next season of Beyond the Blast Doors up and running. Just having a difficult time right now with Sunday morning. So for sure, gonna have to change the time of the show, and that's all going to be kind of correlated to when we can staple down Streaming Star Wars. But maybe Streaming Star Wars always floats, and maybe I just make Beyond the Blast Doors every Friday. I don't know. I feel like that would be making it more complicated than easy. But we will find out. But I'm really excited. I think there's a really big interview in the near future about to drop in my lap that I've been working on for a couple of years. So when I find out, I will let you know. But I can tell you this much: you'll enjoy the interview, and that's the tease. That's all I know. Hey, listen, it is 1:24 on a Saturday afternoon. Streaming Star Wars episode 14 in the books, not 15. Pete thought it was 15. He lost count. We've been doing this for such a long time. He thought it was episode 15, but episode 14. It's been a blast. Streaming Star Wars with Ammo and Fletcher. We'll see you next week talking Clone Wars. May the Force be with you.